you didn't search for this video, it found you. And if you're being honest, something inside you paused when it started. No clear reason, no logical explanation. But you stayed, because lately you haven't just been looking for answers, you've been looking for signs. And maybe this is one of them. Something about your life recently hasn't felt right. Everything looks normal on the outside, but inside, something shifted. The same routine, the same environment. But you don't feel the same anymore. There's a quiet emptiness you can't explain. Not loud enough to call it pain, but heavy enough to feel it every day. You've been trying to hold it together, showing up, talking to people like everything is fine, but deep down, you're tired, not just physically, emotionally tired, mentally drained, and more than anything, tired of waiting. Because at some point, you started asking questions. Why is nothing changing? Why do I keep trying and still feel stuck? Why does it feel like I'm doing everything right, but getting nothing back? And slowly, not just about your situation, but about yourself. But here's what most people don't understand. Not every silence means nothing is happening, and not every delay means something is wrong. Sometimes, when it feels like everything has stopped, that's when something deeper has started. Think about this. When a seed is placed under the soil, from the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. No movement, no growth. If someone judged it too early, they would say it failed. But beneath the surface, everything is happening. Roots are forming, strength is building, a foundation is being created. And if you force that seed to grow faster, if you pull it out too early, it dies. Not because it wasn't meant to grow, but because the process was interrupted. That's exactly where you are right now. It feels like your life is paused, but in reality, it's being prepared. You're not being ignored, you're being developed. And this might be hard to hear, but it matters. Not every delay is a test, sometimes it's protection. Not every closed door is rejection, sometimes it's redirection. Because right now you're focused on what didn't happen, the opportunity that didn't work out, the connection that faded, the plan that fell apart. But you're not seeing what you were saved from. Some people left your life. But what if they weren't meant to go where you're going? What if their absence is creating space for something stronger? Some opportunities didn't work out. But what if that moment would have limited you instead of elevating you? And this is where everything begins to shift, because slowly you stop seeing life as something that's working against you and start seeing it as something that's aligning you. But alignment is uncomfortable. It stretches you, it isolates you, it forces you to let go of things you thought you needed. And then there's this phase, the hardest part of all, the in-between, where nothing makes sense yet, where the past is gone, but the future hasn't arrived, where you're no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. No applause, no validation, no clear direction, just you, and the feeling that something is changing, even if you can't explain it. Because in this silence, you start questioning everything. Am I falling behind? Am I doing something wrong? Is something wrong with me? But here's the truth you need to hear today. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are in the middle of a process. And process is always invisible in the beginning. And this is where most people give up, not at the beginning, not when things are clearly bad, but right here in the uncertainty. Because clarity hasn't arrived yet, but comfort has already left. You're no longer satisfied with who you used to be, but you don't fully recognize who you're becoming. It's uncomfortable. It makes you question your direction, your decisions, even your faith. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Growth doesn't feel like growth. It feels like loss. You lose old habits, old connections, old versions of yourself. And in that process, it feels like life is taking things away from you. But here's what most people don't understand. It's not taking, it's replacing. because you can't step into a new level while holding on to an old identity. You can't receive something greater while staying the same person. And this is where everything changes, because now you're not just dealing with what's happening around you, you're confronting what's happening inside you. Let me tell you a story. There was someone who had everything planned out, a clear path, a clear goal, a clear vision of how life was supposed to unfold. They worked hard, stayed consistent, did everything right. And for a while, it seemed like things were working, until suddenly everything stopped. The opportunity they were counting on disappeared. The people they trusted stepped back. The direction they were so sure about collapsed. And just like that, they were left in silence. No answers, no clarity, just questions. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and nothing changed. They started doubting themselves. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I missed my chance. Maybe this just isn't meant for me. And slowly, their confidence started breaking. Not all at once, but piece by piece. But here's what they didn't realize at the time. That breakdown was actually a setup. Because during that same season, something invisible was happening. They started thinking differently, seeing differently, understanding themselves at a deeper level. They became more aware of what they truly wanted, not what looked good, not what others expected, but what actually aligned with them. And this is where everything shifts, because sometimes you don't lose direction by accident, you lose it on purpose so you can find the right one. But here's the part nobody talks about. Finding the right path often starts with losing the wrong one. And that loss, it feels personal. It feels unfair. It feels like you're being pushed backward. But in reality, you're being repositioned. That person eventually realized something powerful. If everything had gone according to their original plan, they would have settled. They would have stayed in something comfortable but limited. And this is the truth most people miss. Not every opportunity is a blessing. Some are distractions in disguise. And that thing you lost, that door that didn't open, that plan that fell apart, it might not have been strong enough to carry where you're going. And this is where everything starts to make sense, not all at once, but slowly. Because now you begin to see patterns, you begin to understand timing, you begin to realize that there was always something guiding you, even when it felt like nothing was. And this is the moment where your perspective begins to change. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this preparing me for? That one shift changes everything, because now you're no longer stuck in frustration, you're stepping into awareness. And once that shift begins, you start noticing something different. Not outside, but inside. The same situation is still there. The same delay, the same unanswered questions. But your reaction, it starts to change. You're not as desperate as before, not as anxious, not as easily shaken. Not because everything is fixed, but because something within you is stabilizing. And this is where everything changes, because peace is no longer coming from outcomes. It's coming from understanding. You begin to realize, maybe this season isn't here to break me. Maybe it's here to build me. But here's another truth most people don't want to accept. Faith is easy when things are working. But real faith, it shows up when nothing is moving, when you don't have proof, when you don't have clarity, when you don't even have energy, but you still choose to trust. That's different, that's deeper, because now you're not trusting based on results. You're trusting based on something you can't see yet. And this is where your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is waiting for life to happen, and you start seeing yourself as someone who is being prepared for something greater. That difference, it changes how you wake up, it changes how you think, it changes how you move. Because now, and this is where most people miss the opportunity. They rush the process, they try to escape the discomfort, they distract themselves from the silence. But you're starting to lean into it. You're starting to understand that this quiet phase is actually where the real transformation happens. Because when everything is taken away, distractions, noise, validation, you're left with one thing, yourself. And that's where the real work begins. You start questioning your patterns, your beliefs, your habits, the way you respond to pressure, the way you handle uncertainty, and slowly you begin to rebuild, not based on who you used to be, but based on who you're becoming. And this is where everything shifts again, because now you're not trying to go back to your old life, you're outgrowing it. The things you once wanted don't excite you the same way anymore. The people you once depended on don't hold the same place. The path you once chased doesn't feel aligned anymore. And at first that feels scary, because you're stepping into the unknown, letting go of the familiar, walking without full clarity. But here's the truth that changes everything. Clarity doesn't come before the step, it comes after. You don't see the whole path, you just see the next step. And that's enough. Because every step you take in trust reveals a little more. And slowly, what once felt like confusion starts turning into direction. What once felt like delay starts feeling like timing. And what once felt like loss starts looking like protection. But here's the most powerful realization of all. You were never stuck. You were being positioned. Positioned for something you couldn't see yet. Prepared for something you weren't ready for before. Aligned with something bigger than your original plan. And this is where everything becomes clear, not all at once, but enough to keep moving forward. Not easier, not perfect, but meaningful. Because now you can look back and see things you couldn't see before. The delay that once frustrated you slowed you down for a reason. The rejection that once hurt you protected you from something misaligned. The silence that once confused you was creating space for something clearer. And suddenly, what felt random doesn't feel random anymore. It feels guided. And this is where everything changes emotionally, because now you don't feel abandoned. Even in the moments where nothing made sense, something was still working. Even when doors closed without warning, something better was being preserved. Even when you felt alone, you were being carried through something you didn't fully understand. But here's the truth that hits deeper than anything. Not every blessing feels good in the beginning. Some blessings arrive as endings. Some blessings arrive as delays. Some blessings arrive as things falling apart, so something stronger can come together. And this is where your faith becomes real. Not based on what you see, but based on what you now understand. Because now you've lived through it. You've felt the confusion, you've walked through the silence, you've faced the uncertainty. And you're still here, stronger, more aware than before. And this is where everything shifts again, because now you don't just believe things will work out, you know they will. Not because life is predictable, but because you've seen how things unfold. You've seen how what didn't work made space for what did. You've seen how what left was replaced by something more aligned. You've seen how what felt like the end was actually a turning point. And this is your confirmation right now. If this video found you, you were meant to hear this. You're not just going through a random phase. You're moving through a guided transition. Something is shifting in your life, even if you can't fully see it yet. And yes, it's uncomfortable, because change always is. But discomfort doesn't mean you're off track. It usually means you're moving forward. And this is the part you need to trust. What's meant for you is not going to miss you. You don't have to force it. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to control it. Because what is truly aligned with your life will come. at the right time, in the right way, with the right peace. And when it does, you won't have to question it. You won't have to overthink it. You won't have to fight for it. It will feel natural, like everything you went through was leading to that moment. And suddenly, the delays will make sense. The pain will make sense. The silence will make sense. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. And this is where your fear starts to fade, because now you realize you were never out of control. You were always in the middle of something being written one step at a time. And maybe, just maybe, this moment right now is not random either. Out of all the videos, out of all the noise, out of everything you could have been doing, you ended up here. Not by accident, not by chance, but by alignment. Because sometimes the message finds you when you're finally ready to understand it. And maybe that's where you are right now. Ready. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've been through enough to see things differently. You've felt the confusion. You've carried the weight. You've questioned things you never thought you would question. But you didn't quit. Even when it got quiet, even when it got hard, even when it felt like nothing was changing, you stayed. And that matters more than you think, because most people walk away right before things begin to shift, but you didn't. And this is your reminder. You're closer than you feel, closer to clarity, closer to peace, closer to the version of your life that actually aligns with who you are becoming, not who you used to be, not who others expected you to be, but who you were always meant to be. And that version of you, it's already forming in your mindset, in your patience, in your strength. Every moment you thought you were stuck, you were actually evolving. Every time you felt delayed, you were being timed perfectly. Every time something didn't work out, something better was being positioned. And one day, sooner than you think, you're going to look back at this phase, not with pain, but with understanding. You're going to realize nothing was wasted, not the waiting, not the confusion, not even the moments that made you feel like giving up. All of it was shaping you. All of it was preparing you. All of it was guiding you somewhere better. And when that moment comes, everything will connect. Not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but quietly, deeply, in a way that makes you pause and say, now I understand, and in that moment, you won't regret the delay. You won't question the silence. You won't even wish things happened faster, because you'll see it happened exactly how it needed to. So for now, take a breath. You don't have to rush. You don't have to figure everything out today. You don't have to carry the pressure of when. Just trust this. Something is working behind the scenes. Something is aligning in ways you can't yet see. Something is being prepared just for you. And your job right now, stay grounded, stay patient, stay open. Because what's coming next doesn't require you to chase it. It requires you to be ready for it. And you are getting ready even now. So don't lose hope, not here, not now. Because if this message found you, then maybe it was never just a video. Maybe it was a reminder that you are guided, that you are protected, and that your story is still unfolding.